Hey everyone, it's Justin Leoy, Park Slope therapist, coming in here in Brooklyn as usual. Hope all is well with you. I wanted to talk today about something. I write this weekly column for the Good Men Project called Unmasking Masculinity, and I'm usually kind of looking at some aspect of masculinity and um, what are the stereotypes? How does it show up in people's lives, in media sometimes, in movies and TV shows and books and stuff like that. I was drawn though. There's a quote that I see popping around a lot. I think it's attributed to Shaw, to George Bernard Shaw, of that a life isn't about finding yourself; it's about creating yourself. And it sounds good. A lot of people like to think about that, and like the idea is, who do you want to be and create that. And I struggle with both ends of the spectrum of like the finding yourself, going deep in who you are, and the creating yourself is becoming just something completely different. I suppose I've always been more drawn to the finding yourself, but the idea is when you're creating yourself, it's like it seems like you're putting stuff on. The finding yourself could be this lifelong journey and all that, and then there's the place in I don't want to say the middle, maybe at the top of the other side of a triangle or many-sided thing, where you're just doing what you feel, what feels instinctual. And we often confuse the instinctual part with who we actually are, because like, oh, this is what feels right, and this is what I'm going with it. And what gets lost in that is how we're socialized. And I'm bringing it back to masculinity, because so much of what we think of as masculine is something we've been socialized to think of as masculine. And who made that rule? Are we going back in time? Are we going back to the society that we have? Are we going back to, I mean, people will go into evolutionary stuff like that, and it gets really like, where does any of this come from? And once we kind of establish and remember how much this is socialized and created over time, perhaps by a group of people, and then like kept in place by those same groups of people, including us to this day, we then get to choose whether that makes sense. So it's finding yourself, creating yourself. It's about, is this something that works for me? Does it make sense to me? Because that's what I've been learned. It's what I've learned, like a man does in society. So I'm gonna choose that or choose not that. Is it always one or the other? So this idea is, you maybe have been trying on the role for a long time, depending on how old you are, and depending on how well it's sat for you, and how much you've been given good feedback when you do that thing, when you do stay strong and not break down, even though you're at your mother's funeral or something like that, and you're like, oh yeah, he remains so strong, and so that gets held up for you. That might not make sense for you, but it's how we're told, being masculine is, but it's not who you feel like you are, and you put on something in that moment. And that's an extreme moment. I hope it's an extreme moment, your mother's funeral. But there are little ways this will come up during the day at work. Someone's expecting you to do something, or expecting you not to do something because of your maleness, or someone else, if we're talking to a female, their femaleness. So I was questioning this in this article I had recently written for the Good Men Project, that was just about like, what about trying on new roles? Not just like, doing whatever you want in the given moment, so much as like intentionally being like, what this is doing, it's not working for me. It's actually making me feel uncomfortable. It's pushing down what seems to want to come up. And maybe I am afraid of trying something else, which could be a color shade you want to wear, to so much as how you want to live your day, what you want to do at lunchtime, or how you want to respond to how someone is speaking at work when someone's saying something. We can try out those different things, and you can know whether this is considered masculine, this is not, this is feminine, this is whatever that is. And then you're not necessarily creating something totally new. You are figuring out what makes the most sense for you, so that you can intentionally move in that direction going forward. So I hope I talked around to this a lot. So I hope it makes more sense in the more structured essay. But I will drop that in the comments, and would love to hear your thoughts on that. Even the idea. I mean, people really can push back with me at times about like, as if masculine and feminine are these very they're codified things, and you're either doing it or you're not, and as opposed to saying, okay, this is what we're socializing thinking masculine is, but like, why don't we change that? Like, who's to say that you and I can't decide right now that something else is going to be now considered masculine for you and for me and for that person? Why are we strapped into these things? So, question, looking forward to hearing your thoughts on it. Have a great evening.